Freedom, man. That's what it's all about. You've got to groove on freedom, like the good book says.
Welcome. You are listening to What on Earth is Happening. This show will discuss the topics of human consciousness, mind control, natural law, the occult, and all issues that affect the freedom of the people of Earth. What on Earth is Happening will endeavor to shine light upon the darkness of our world and to offer empowering solutions to the problems we face as humanity approaches its critical moment of choice. And now, here is your host, Mark Passio.
Welcome, one and all. You're watching What on Earth is Happening. I'm your host, Mark Passio. My website, whatonearthishappening.com. Ladies and gentlemen, government is slavery. Always has been, is now, always will be. Whether you understand that or not, it's still true. And here on What on Earth is Happening, we are ending slavery one mind at a time. Welcome, one and all, and thank you for tuning in today. Today is Sunday, March 12th, 2023. This is show number 268 of What on Earth is Happening. Thank you for being here today. We have a great show lined up. I'm going to have my special guest, Jeff Hipoff from the One Great Work Network, a little bit later on the show. Really looking forward to speaking with Jeff. Jeff is a great content creator on One Great Work Network, and we're going to be talking to him about doing the great work today. That being said, I have a few announcements to go over, as always, at the beginning of the show. And please do remember, What on Earth is Happening in general is a tapestry of information. These shows are not really meant to be taken in individually. They are part of an overall tapestry that starts at show number 1. So if you are a new viewer to this podcast, you should not start from this point. You should go back to show number 1, and you should listen to all of the podcasts in order, starting from number 1 without skipping around at your own pace. And that is how you gain maximum value from this podcast, because there is prerequisite knowledge to understand in the earliest podcasts, and then we build upon that knowledge as we go. So this is meant to be taken in like a college course. You cannot simply skip to the end and pick it up from there. You will not be gaining prerequisite knowledge in the earlier episodes. So that being said, let's jump over to my slides for today. Thank you to Will Keller, as always, for the great title cards that he provides each week. Again, today, Jeff Hipoff of the One Great Work Network, our special guest. We're running on a streamlined 2-hour format for this season. Perhaps once I'm set up in my new environment, my move is going pretty smoothly so far. It's going to be completed in less than a couple weeks probably. And once it is complete, hopefully within about a month or so, I'll have my new studio set up and I'll be broadcasting the show from there. Probably for the duration of this season, at least, we'll stick with that 2-hour format. But more likely than not, if everything goes smoothly and as planned, I'll be going back to a 3-hour format next season of What on Earth is Happening, starting in January. So we're still on a 6-month, 2-hour schedule for this season, January through June. And like I said, if everything goes really smoothly with the setup of my new studio and Perhaps if I have a producer on duty next season, we'll go back to a 3-hour show with the full setup. How to become the true media is racing toward us, actually. We're going to be opening enrollment April 1st, Saturday, April 1st. That's coming up only in, 3 weeks? So if you want to take the How to Become the True Media Technology Skill Sharing Seminar, you're going to want to enroll as early as possible. Enrollment begins April 3rd. This is a 23-week technology skill share seminar. I host it on the Telegram platform every Monday evening from 8 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern U.S. time, from Monday, July 10th to Monday, December 11th, 2023, for a total of 23 class sessions. There is limited space available in the seminar this year, so do not wait till the last minute to enroll. Enrollment again opens Saturday, April 1st, 2023 at midnight. For more information and for the general aspects of technology that this seminar covers, please visit the seminar website, howtobecomthetruemedia.com. Once again, howtobecomthetruemedia.com. Great news on the presentation of Two Masks, Same Face, the dark occult origins of Nazism and communism, what is going to be certainly the biggest work that I have put out probably since the Demystifying the Occult seminars, and of course my natural law seminar. This is going to be a special all-day presentation. It's an all-day event, and we have locked it in. We did have to go to a different venue. I was not accepted and allowed to speak at the original venue that we had planned when they found out that I was an anarchist, of all things. Imagine a person that does not want violence in the world, that wants a voluntary society based on voluntary interaction, that doesn't want coercion, violence, or duress. And I'm the one who's told that I don't have a voice. But anyway, we did find a very amicable place in Pennsylvania. So the presentation, Two Masks, Same Face, we are moving the date and the venue. It is going to take place Saturday, October 21st, 2023 at the Exton Hotel and Conference Center in Exton, Pennsylvania. The organizers there were very easy to work with. We got it set up very quickly. And we are locked in and confirmed for October 21st, 2023 at the Exton Hotel and Conference Center in Exton, Pennsylvania. This is a beautiful hotel. We have an awesome conference room set up that holds 300 people for this event. So I will be able to actually up the private invitations to 300. And I can tell you right now that the invitations to Two Masks, Same Face, the dark occult origins of Nazism and communism will be available on May 1st, 2023, 1 month after the opening of the How to Become the True Media Seminar. May 1st, 2023, we are going to start opening the private invitations that are going to be available for a donation on What on Earth is Happening donation gifts for this all-day event. So I will be announcing that on the website and putting a link to where people can donate to attend this presentation, this all-day event, live and in person in Exton, Pennsylvania, this October 21st. I'm very excited about this. The presentation is going to be a mind blower. People really are unaware of a lot of these connections that I'm going to bring forward and expose, and it's going to be an all-day scholarly event. So you're not going to want to miss this one if you're anywhere in the area or even if you're traveling from afar. I hope to see people from all over the country and possibly even other countries at this event. It's going to be at a beautiful hotel so people can stay. We're going to have a reception afterward, like just a get together after the event is over. Anybody that wants to stay can stay and hang out and talk, and just network and socialize into the evening. So I think it really worked out in the end, and I'm very happy. As a matter of fact, I want to talk with Jeff about it because he was absolutely instrumental in securing the venue. So we're going to be bringing that up in just a little bit. Moving on, there is a new section on What on Earth is Happening donation gifts, and the category is called Technology Donations. And what this is a way for people to donate piecemeal in a crowdsourced way for larger or more expensive technology items that I require. So there it is there, a link under gift categories, and on the categories page you could see their technology donations. Now, the item that was up there was a presentation laptop. I have the laptop now, ladies and gentlemen, so I'm actually broadcasting the slides from the new laptop. So thank you wholeheartedly to everyone who donated to make this happen. This is going to be the laptop that I'm going to present the Two Masks, Same Face, Dark Occult Origins presentation on. So it is actually secured. I have it. I'm using it right now. Thank you to everyone who donated for that item. There is an additional item up there now. Let's take a look and see how that is doing. So give me one moment, and I'll switch over to my web browser real quick. So we can just take a look at how the donations are going for the next computer that is required here, which is going to run the actual show in the studio. I'm going to retain this computer as my own creative computer, and I'm going to set up a Mac Studio in my permanent studio in my new location. I apologize, I'm just switching over to my laptop again. There we go. So this is a web browser in real time. I'm going to click categories here, and then I'll click donation, technology donations. And here you see there is one item on the technology donation page on donation gifts. It's a donation toward a Mac Studio for the What on Earth is Happening show. And so far, we have raised $1,300 out of the $4,000 required to get this Mac Studio. So thank you to everyone who donated, and please, if you are able to contribute toward this item, you can make a donation right here, ranging from $50 to $500, and any denominations of $50 increments in between. Hopefully, we can raise the donations to secure this item in the next couple of weeks, and I will be able to set it up in the new studio location. So thank you to everyone who has donated so far. We're a little less than halfway there, maybe about 1/3 of the way there to secure this Mac Studio. So thank you to everyone who has already donated. Let's move back to slides. Don't forget One Great Work Network, running strong with 72 awesome content creators, one of which is my guest today, at onegreatworknetwork.com. Please check it out. Please donate to the content creators. They're doing a hell of a job making some of the greatest content on the internet regarding natural law, regarding objective morality, regarding the occult, and the situation of tyranny that humanity finds itself in. You won't find any better information anywhere online than onegreatworknetwork.com. Please do check it out, and please do support the wonderful content creators who are part of this network. Also, check out my band.video channel. I've been very busy with the move to the new location, so I have not yet put any new videos out. There are 2 still up there. I'm going to complete the natural law seminar hopefully this week, one video at a time. out of the three-part series. The channel is at band.video/channel/Mark-Passio. Check it out. Hopefully we can establish a good viewership there and a good hit count for the videos. So check out my band.video channel. Don't Tread on Philly hosts its monthly happy hour on the second Wednesday of every month. I attended it this past Wednesday. It was awesome. Again, a great crowd came out. Just some of the best freedom-oriented people in the whole Delaware Valley region of the country, the whole tri-state area here. And we meet every second Wednesday of the month at The Dive, which is on East Passyunk Avenue in South Philadelphia. The second Wednesday happy hour is always free to attend. And for more information on the group Don't Tread on Philly, check out their website, don'ttreadonphilly.com. Also, Don't Tread on Philly on Facebook. The What on Earth is Happening IPFS project is going strong. 3 nodes have been created. We are working to basically make them as stable as possible. One of them is quite stable at this point. Another couple have to be stabilized a little bit better. IPFS is a sort of a tricky protocol, and the desktop client isn't super robust, unfortunately, but it is working, and we have 3 nodes online, and we're looking to put up more nodes this year. I said the goal was 5 for this entire year. We're going to make that goal, no doubt about it. And to the people who are waiting in the queue for me to get a hold of you, I'm just going through a move right now. Be patient. I will get to it. I will get back to all of that work. Just bear with me for the time being. If you're interested in the What on Earth is Happening IPFS project, this is to make my content censorship proof and available always on the IPFS network, which is a distributed and decentralized platform. You require 200 megabits or greater of bandwidth in the upstream direction. If you don't have that, please don't inquire about this project. If you do have at least 200 megabits upstream in the upload direction, check out whatonearthishappening.com/IPFS, and you could fill out the form there with preliminary requirements and instructions. To call into today's show with my special guest, Jeff Hipoff, please visit whatonearthishappening.com/call, or if you're already watching on the show page of What on Earth is Happening, you could even scan the QR code that's there or click the link, and that will join you into our Telegram call-in room. When I do call on you to take calls, please be ready to unmute yourself from the large blue microphone icon at the bottom of your call window in Telegram. Not the main window with your chats, but the call window when you join the call. You can unmute yourself from there once I unmute you from the server side. ARC 2.0 still available, still going strong. I'm still getting ARCs almost every day. The directions have been upgraded for my new mailing address, so if you're concerned about that, you don't need to be. Just, I would say at this point, do not send any more ARCs to my old mailing address. The new mailing address is in the new document at whatonearthishappening.com/ARC, so when you go online and fill that out and you get the instructions, it is up to date. So I would say, if you're concerned about that, just go to the page again, fill out your information again, and re-download the instructions, and you'll have the most updated instructions. The ARC is a hard drive or solid-state drive, whatever you send to me. You send a storage device to me, and I'll fill it up with 26,000 audio files, 9,500 digital books, and 3,400 digital videos, all from my personal archive of research from when I've started researching all of this information. So that's what the ARC 2.0 drive is. Do check it out, whatonearthishappening.com/ARC. If you want hard copies of my presentations or promotional items such as t-shirts, stickers, coasters, keychains, buttons, etc. Also, technology donation category is there. You can get the One Great Work Collection solid state drive. Awesome t-shirts available for both men and women. Visit gifts.whatonearthishappening.com. This is What on Earth is Happening donation gifts. The website gifts.whatonearthishappening.com. Again, that is where the enrollment will take place for how to become the true media. And we will open May 1st private invitations in return for a donation for Two Masks, Same Face, The Dark Occult Origins of Nazism and Communism. All of that will be available at gifts.whatonearthishappening.com. That's where the seminar is available. That's where the presentation, the upcoming presentation, Two Masks, Same Face, will be available. So we're opening up enrollment for how to become the true media at the beginning of April, and we're opening up the donations for Two Masks, Same Face, private personal attendance in person on May 1st. If you prefer instead to make a straight donation to the What on Earth is Happening and One Great Work Network causes, you can visit whatonearthishappening.com/donate, and you could donate something like 12 different ways, 6 or 9 cryptocurrencies, something like that, Cash App, GPay, tech donation via Amazon wish list for smaller items, and check and money order. Those are all the announcements that I have for today, so let me just get prepared for my guest. Let's shoot over here temporarily. Let me get my headset on. Let's make sure Jeff is ready to roll, and we'll get started. All right. Okay, Jeff, you can go ahead and turn your camera on and unmute your mic. Excellent.
Hey, Mark, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. You're coming in loud and clear. Let me get you set up here in Window. There we go. There you are. All right, and let's get your lower third on, and I'm going to read your bio, and we'll get going. Hold on one moment. I apologize. My tab got closed with your bio. Just bear with me one moment. All right, there it is. All right, ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Hiphoff is an anarchist, freedom activist, podcaster, engineer, and local event organizer. On a daily basis, Jeff relentlessly strives to learn about everything related to higher consciousness, self-improvement, and freedom for all beings. Firmly grounded and ever conscious that without a strong understanding of objective moral foundations, human beings pursuing a more free existence are guaranteed to fall short of our potential. Absolutely. Jeff is adamantly solutions-oriented and focused on real-world actions that move humanity toward a state of freedom and anarchy. In 2020, Jeff started the Go Off podcast and gooff.com website, which quickly turned into a source for foundational knowledge and real-world solutions that anyone can enact to improve their lives and the lives of those around them. Jeff is extremely honored to be a member of the One Great Work Network and to be alongside so many other enlightened beings who are actively helping ourselves and our neighbors out of our current state of slavery. Ladies and gentlemen, One Great Work content creator and my special guest today, Jeff Hiphoff. Jeff, welcome to What on Earth is Happening.
Thanks, Mark. It's an honor to be here.
Absolutely. Glad to have you here. Jeff, you've been a tour de force, actually, in the One Great Work Network. Your content has been really awesome. It shines brightly. It's very rooted in objective morality and true anarchy. And most of all, you've been a tremendous help for me personally and in my work with What on Earth is Happening, as you were the individual who secured the venue. And I want to say to all the other event organizers, you guys did your absolute greatest as well. So I want to say thank you to all of you, everybody who tried to help secure a venue. Jeff, you found this awesome venue out in Exton, Pennsylvania, and it's really worked out. We locked it in, and I'm really excited and looking forward to delivering the presentation there. So why don't you tell everybody about your background and how you got started in doing this type of work and this type of educational outreach?
Sure. Yeah. I small town kid in Southeast PA. Nothing special about my upbringing. The best thing that my parents did for me was to always make sure that I was an individual thinker and didn't just do everything everybody else was doing as I was growing up. And they never pushed me into politics any which way. They never pushed any religions onto me. So that's probably the best thing they did for me, as well as instilling a drive to educate myself and just continue to learn. From high school, then I attended college as a mechanical engineering major, graduated from there, and I've been working in engineering in a couple different industries since then. As far as me getting involved in content creating and doing the great work, it was really started after I graduated from college. Being in an engineering curriculum, you are very busy 7 days out of the week, and when that stopped, I was pretty much bored intellectually. So I was making money for the first time in my life and had a ton of free time, didn't have any homework to do. So I started reading books and more books, and how do I handle money? How should I live? What's the best way to do that? Picking up different historical topics that I was interested in. And one thing led to another, and I'm reading books such as The Law by Frederick Bastiat, Road to Serfdom by Hayek, Hazlitt's Economics in One Lesson, Mainspring of Human Progress, Henry Grady Weaver. And from there, I stumbled on your work as well, as many others have. And in 2020, I kind of started my podcast just as a fun thing to do when you couldn't go out and socialize the way you wanted to normally pre-COVID era. So it was just a fun thing to do with me and my friends. And the more confidence I got in putting my voice out there and the more knowledge I gained over time, I decided to start teaching others what I had learned and what I recognize as the only way to move into a free society. And that is education first and foremost.
Absolutely. One of the things that you mentioned is that your parents encouraged free thinking. That is something that a lot of people do not have the benefit of. And that's something that, when you do have it, it's a tremendous motivational factor, because if you're not really held back by limiting thought structures and things like, religion and, ties to the mindset of government and authority, and at least if you're encouraged to strike out on your own path mentally, psychologically, as far as information is concerned, it's a big advantage and it's a big step up. So that's something that I think is so important, and I'd like you to speak to that dynamic a little bit, because it's an advantage that many people do not have and would really like to have had earlier on in life. I know that really kind of wasn't my scenario. It was always just go along, things will work out, just try to do the things that are expected of you. But when you have, kind of like that initial push that basically says, go out and explore, be open-minded, take, a free thinker's approach to the entirety of the world, that kind of sets you up for really a better understanding of what's going on. So, if you would like to speak to that dynamic, I'd like your take on that.
Yeah, it's a really healthy way to approach and bring up a child for myself going through that specifically. And it's really up to you when you have that environment, when you have that teaching from your parents. It's really up to you how far you go with it and how far you run. And to other point you were talking about, the main issue or the main message actually from my mom that I can hear her echoing in my head now. It's if all of your friends jumped off a bridge, would you jump off a bridge?
Right.
And as a kid, I would always answer no, and she would encourage me to answer no. However, coming to a higher level of understanding now from when I was as a kid, the correct answer is, well, what's the bridge like? What's under the bridge? How high is it? Is it just going to go into a small pond, or is it going to be jagged rocks at the end? So it's approaching a situation and a social dynamic with a mindset of thinking critically, thinking for yourself first and foremost. Maybe it's going to be a lot of fun, or maybe you're going to fall to your death. But without that critical thinking piece, just having a knee-jerk reaction and following suit and saying no or saying yes, either which way, doesn't do the consciousness, doesn't do yourself any justice to personal growth. So that's some of the things that I've still ring in my head to this day from my childhood and free thinking.
Absolutely. Now, you said that the pandemic was sort of like a big awakening factor forward for you. Not that you really kind of weren't awake before that, but what was the whole experience going through this total psyop like for you? And what kind of directions did it push you in when that all jumped off?
Yeah, it was definitely the catalyst for me to start getting involved more and speaking out. It was just before then, it was just me speaking to my friends one-on-one basis and my family one-on-one basis, and not really putting my voice out there, not being involved in any community events or organizing any community events for sure. And probably because it was so directly affecting my day-to-day life. As a guy in my 20s, my social life since then has been destroyed. With the general population, now really only social with a few friends from college and just mainly the large freedom-oriented communities here at Don't Tread on Philly and others in the local area. But going through COVID was definitely the catalyst to get involved and start doing that and start doing the great work. But because it hit so personally, at a personal level, maybe others in a more rural area who are knowledgeable but weren't as affected as me, living in the suburbs of Philadelphia. And then some of the people in the city were even more greatly affected than I was. So it was a very different time because I have a lot of friends in different areas. So I got different perspectives on how it impacted each other. For me personally, I lost my job due to the requiring of the COVID injections. So I had to move jobs during this time. And that's not a pleasant experience. When you've done absolutely nothing wrong, you're just not agreeing to change your body. And that's making you the bad man and getting you fired, essentially. So it was definitely a catalyst to start action. And just going along with the status quo doesn't seem like the status quo is going in any positive direction.
That's right. When has conventional wisdom ever been wise? When has the herd ever been right? This is what I ask people all the time. What makes you think that, if your thinking is in line with the rest of the bulk of humanity, that you're thinking the right thoughts, that you're thinking in a wise direction and heading in a wise direction? Almost always it's the exact opposite. So let me ask you this. When you were, realizing that things were very, very badly heading in the wrong direction, what was the thing that made you finally say, I must speak out, I must start putting information out into the world about what I have come to know? And I'd like you to speak to the logistics of doing that. Like, when you decided to do that, what was it like going through that process? Was it a big learning curve for you? Was technology a stumbling point? Did that come more naturally? Speak to those dynamics for a moment.
Sure. The first part is what was the catalyst to start actually speaking out? It was mainly because so many people who I was in contact with on a day-to-day basis, my friends, family, people who I love, people who I care about, fell victim and just completely followed suit with the mainstream narrative of everything going on. And that really got me angry, pissed me off. And lit a fire under my ass to start speaking out. So that was the main thing: seeing the people who I love and care about just harming themselves and fighting for the whatever stories that were being pushed out by the propaganda news and the governmental news. And so that point forward, I was very adamant with them in person, and then I realized so many others needed hear that message as well. So to get started with that, I started a website, started a podcast. Before then, I never created a website. I never had a podcast of any sort. Being a mechanical engineering by education, and having some computer programming classes in high school, and being good with CAD and other such automation programming, industrial automation. I was pretty tech savvy before I got started, and it wasn't a terribly steep learning curve. I took a couple of online classes to learn WordPress, to learn how to put out a podcast through syndication, different recording softwares, different hardware. So for me, it was probably a month to a month and a half process to get everything done up and hit the ground running. But since then, it's times have changed, and new technology is always coming out, new ways to do it, better ways to do it, creating a more efficient standard operating procedure, etc. And I will say I was in your How to Become the True Media class last year in 2022. And I learned so much. Even though I had a podcast and a website and everything before that, I learned so much from the 23 weeks in that course last year.
Your learning process was highly accelerated. I mean, for you to pick that stuff up in only a month or two is utterly amazing. Again, you did have somewhat of a technical background. You do what I actually went to school for. I went to school for mechanical engineering, dropped out, and went into business with my cousin in an internet business early on. But you actually graduated, went into the mechanical engineering field, and again, as you said, that gave you a little bit of a technical background, and you had some technical prowess from using the computer-aided drawing programs that are a big part of that field. So that kind of helped you, I guess, to learn the basic conceptual ideas of computing. Am I correct?
That's correct. And growing up, my dad has been in IT for 25 plus years. So I've built computers with him as a kid and watched him do it as well, and just learned little things from watching him work. So that also helped. Now,
regarding the technical aspect, people may, ask, like, why do we continue to hammer on this and continue to discuss this almost endlessly? And I bring this up with all of my guests anymore. I want you to give your take regarding how do you see technology involved with the great work and making the great work move forward? How important is it? How integrated and intertwined with the concept of freedom is it? How do you see people understanding that, learning about it, moving forward in their understanding of technology and its importance in that regard?
Yeah, you can look back through history to actually find that answer best, I think. There is a woman who is an elderly woman now, but she was raised in Austria, I believe, and was a young girl when Hitler started moving into Austria in World War II and prior. And she said the first thing that Hitler did was took all of their guns and had voluntary turning in of their guns, and he mandated a radio be put in everybody's home. He recognized, and Goebbels and everybody else and Himmler recognized that change, in their case, negative, bad, evil change, starts with the mind and what the mind consumes. And so having the radio in everybody's house, they're going to be tuned in as much as possible and addicted to the propaganda. So it is mainly just a tool, technology. And in the modern age, the video format in particular is the latest and furthest progression of that. Before we get to any brain chip implants, I guess, or wearable devices on our bodies all the time. But as it stands, the video formatting is the most critical and most useful and the most direct tool to affect change in the world. And all that change starts in the minds of people. And if the work isn't being done, put out there, the great work not being done and put out there, they're only going to have the propaganda from the government and any other dross or distractions that's pushed out as well. So it is certainly a tool for change, because it directly affects your thoughts and the ideas that go into your mind. And that's where all real world action and change come from. So it is critical that we learn that, utilize it to the best of our ability, and do the same to fight the nonstop mainstream messaging that they use on the TV and internet.
It's something that everywhere I go in person with people, I've been bringing up more and more, and asking them, if you don't understand how to speak out via the internet to a mass amount of people, not just with your voice in person, speaking to a few people who happen to be around you in person, bodily, if you don't understand how to use the technology to amplify your voice, your message, your philosophy, how do you expect it's going to propagate and be picked up by other people? You know, propagation and propaganda are the same root words, you know, and that's to say that propaganda is not always bad or evil. You know, what we do by putting the word out is propagandizing. We are propagating our message, you know, putting the word out to other people in the hopes that it spreads. And that's the same techniques, the same methods as the evildoers of the world, except we're doing it for the right reason, and we're putting out correct information, and we're trying to inspire people to be more moral instead of less moral. So, you know, I think it's just great when people really have that fundamental understanding. And if they have a little bit of technical knowledge under their belt, they can really parlay that into something much greater in a quick amount of time, as was your case. But even if they don't have that kind of technical background under their belt, if they take basic introductory courses. There's tons of ways that they can do that. All kinds of visual learning courses all over the internet. If they take a guided seminar like I present, that gives you an even greater opportunity to really dig pretty deep and have it be interactive directly with an expert, who has a lot of experience under one's belt in doing this exact type of thing when it comes to information purveyance. So, thanks for your whole take on that. I think that is exactly, how I see it. And we have to really get people to have a much better understanding of how that really works, because that's such an integral part of the one great work that it can never be separated from it as far as I'm concerned. So, when you started your podcast, what types of topics do you get into in the podcast? And give us the general gist of what it's about, how the episodes are structured, what kind of platforms you have it on, and what your listening audience has been like so far.
Sure. I started off just taking small local stories. I think one of my first episodes was on backyard chickens. Some family in rural Pennsylvania was getting harassed by the local township for having chickens in their yard, and it wasn't spaced out properly off of the next neighbor's property or the road, and just pointing out little inconsistencies there. And it was really starting out with mental things. I had a couple early episodes talking about your content ratio, the amount of content you consume versus the amount of content you output, as well as another episode called your information bubble. Many people have said, psychologists, sociologists have said that you are the sum of the 5 closest people to you in life, who you spend the most time with, those 5 people. And I kind of equated that to your top 5 most watched content online is going to be who you express, taking all that in their channels, their websites, their media online. You're going to be your 5 top influences mentally. And so that's kind of stuff where I started early on, and I've slowly progressed through last year and the year before a little bit, looking at more complex topics, looking at more local topics as well. But really always try to leave the audience with a piece of information, a consistent message about natural law, about freedom, first and foremost, what that actually means, how do we get there. And at the end of each episode, hopefully I offer a piece of advice a piece of action that everyone can take to work towards that solution. And piece by piece, whether that's buying us some time to educate more or something that we can start tomorrow in our own lives that will serve as an example of others to follow.
Excellent. Now, your whole take is very solutions oriented. I know that. You're into local food and local food growing. You're into well, obviously as an engineer, I see behind you have an Ender 3D printer there. I think it looks like. Speak to some of your grassroots solutions oriented approaches. Now we all obviously know the ultimate solution is understanding objective morality and teaching that to others, teaching natural law. But talk about some in-person grassroots solutions as far as being able to be self-sustaining that you're personally involved in.
Sure. Yeah. In 2021, I had made a couple of raised beds in my backyard from free pallets that were had assigned for free on the side of the road. Chopped them up, made them into some raised beds, got some topsoil and some garden compost, and started growing stuff. Never grew anything before that. Never raised to grow anything. So I was just putting seeds in the ground, seeing what happened. Expanded that out in the backyard, and I have a very small twin home in a suburb of Philly. So not a lot of space, but I said, fuck the grass. That's not doing anything for me. And just started putting soil down in the grass in the yard and keep expanding out the garden. Behind me, as an engineer, I work with 3D printers at an industrial scale for my day job, almost on a daily basis. And this is a printer I've had for a number of years now, one of my printers. And it's really empowering to see an idea get modeled using CAD software, and then being able to export an STL file, load it up in the printer, have that all set up, and see a physical thing come out within a day, within a few hours, depending on the part. And when in the past, before 3D printers, you would have to go to a machine shop, you would have to go to an injection molding facility, and it's very expensive, very slow. And for hobby projects or for any type of small manufacturing, it can be done now for a few $100s in your office space or in your basement. Local manufacturing, local food growing. I also have started a website with my friend Manish called Farm Finder PA, and we are it's just basically a directory, community sourced of different local food listings, different farms, farmers markets, stores that sell food all within PA, and that's really to promote where the farmers are, because the general populace actually doesn't even know where their farmers are and where their food can come from. They just by default follow everyone else and go to Acme or Giant or ShopRite, etc. So that website is up and running and growing every day with new listings across the state. And that really all comes back to the energy that you put in is going to be the maximum potential that you can have output in your life. So if you're eating high quality local fruits and veggies and taking in the right information, you have all the foundational pieces set up and ready to go to see that manifest in the real world in your life. So those are some of the things that I'm working on more local level that I can affect change, have the personal connection with, in addition to the podcast and the impersonal connection over air, over the internet. So I guess in addition to that, I'll also promote the monthly documentary night that I have, organizing once a month on the third Thursday, called Inspire and Inquire. And we've had 2 months so far here in 2023. And it was really inspired by your previous organizing and helping to organize the Truth, Freedom, Prosperity documentary movie nights that you had in Philadelphia a number of years ago. And I wanted to start something similar, something that I can do. Just contact a local venue and get a projector screen. Pretty simple, if I'm honest about it. Everybody can do that in their local area if they so choose. So I have food, I have local manufacturing, and I have local spreading of ideas, in-person connections. So yeah, like I said, very solutions-oriented, very local, community-based oriented, in addition to the global internet-reaching podcast.
You know what, Jeff? I've been meaning to actually promote that on the show. I'm going to actually put a flyer into the slide rotation in the event announcements for that, because that's a great monthly meetup. I've been really enjoying going to them. Your documentary selection is excellent as well. And for people in this, basic tri-state area, if you want to come out and check out a really awesome documentary evening and discussion at a really cool place, this is on the third Thursday of every month in Oaks, Pennsylvania, a suburb of Philadelphia. And the place is really cool. Arnold's Family Funhouse, where you host it in their theater projection room. And this place has everything. They have bowling, they have go-karts, they have miniature golf, they have rock climbing, they have a bar. It's a really, really cool place for family entertainment. And again, now Jeff is in there doing documentary screenings monthly, and that's awesome that was inspired by the old TFP documentary nights. I remember those, and those were really kicking strong for a long while. I'll definitely start promoting that as part of the weekly event announcements. So the next one is coming up this Thursday, right? So this Thursday, what's the date? March 16th. 16th. So if you're in the the Philadelphia suburbs around Oaks, Pennsylvania, which is around a little bit northwest of King of Prussia, Pennsylvania. Come on out to the Inquire and Inspire documentary screenings, third Thursday of each month at Arnold's Family Fun Center in Oaks, Pennsylvania. Do you have a website for that, or is that it's on Eventbrite? Am I correct?
Yeah, you can go to inquireandinspire.com, and it forwards you to the Eventbrite page, where each month we have a listing, an event posted for the exact date and the information on the documentary we're showing each month.
Awesome.
That's starting at 6 p.m. on the third Thursday.
Awesome. Yeah, would love to see people come out. It's a great group of people that usually shows up. Again, very thought-provoking documentaries and discussions following the documentary screening. Now, sticking to that for just one moment, I want to talk about the dynamic of, where we live in southeastern Pennsylvania in the Philadelphia area. I am making a move, and I am moving to a suburb of Philadelphia. And it's like, it's an interesting dynamic, because you really do see that consciousness is different in different areas. I'm not going to say that means everybody's enlightened, but at least it is a little bit better as far as how people generally behave around each other and treat each other. I'm seeing that dynamic already, not even completing the move, but it being like about 3/4 complete. And when I go up there, I'm actually, seeing a completely different dynamic around me than in the major part of the city in Center City, Philadelphia, or South Philadelphia. And people have said to me, "You're the last person." I've had friends tell me, "You're the absolute last person that I would have ever expected would move to the suburbs." And obviously, I was forced into this move and decided, I'm going to, try to find a place where I can really focus on my work, set up a permanent studio, so I'm not in a super tiny row home where I have to break down my studio every week. And that worked out. I'm actually going to be very close to you. So, it's a very different dynamic. I'd like you to speak to how you see, fully urban living versus suburban versus rural, if you have any experience with that, and your take on it when it comes to how it affects consciousness.
Yeah, so I've never lived completely rural in my upbringing. I think the town I grew up in was certainly more rural than where I am now, kind of in a metropolitan suburb, and the going down and into the city over the years, hanging out with friends, seeing different places, different sections, in comparison and contrasting to where I live in the immediate area and towns. In the city, you're really just constantly bombarded with propaganda, with advertising, with different radiation, with noise. with lights, and you don't really get to have any time off, any quiet time, any time to just sit and think and be to yourself and focus on anything in particular. It's just being, it's like you're living in a TikTok.
Constant crowding as well.
Constant TikTok.
Constant crowding of people and cars, traffic, etc. Yep.
Yeah. You can't find any of space of your own, I don't think, too far away from any other individual or any other noise section of the city. Maybe there's places, but that's largely the case in the really urban, dense, populated areas. In the suburbs, you're still close to that. Certainly, you don't have to drive 5 minutes to go to your neighbor's house. You can usually walk there or see it out your window. But you do have your more secluded space and more secluded time, easier to find those spaces, and you can really sit and focus and concentrate, and the stress levels just go way down, and that opens up so much more possibility. It's such a healthier state to be living in, and it's way more easy, very much more easy to get the stuff done that you want to get done, I think, and to have a healthy peace of mind and a healthy body at the same time.
I definitely agree. Friends of mine have told me that, they're so much more productive when they, go out into a non fully urbanized center around a little bit more nature, and it sort of clears their thinking. It focuses them. It enables them to get more done in less time. So that's what I'm hoping is going to be the dynamic when I complete my move and, again, get settled into a place where I at least have a separate room where I don't have to keep breaking down equipment, and I'll be able to, put on an even more focused show there as well. So let me get your take on...
Mark, when we were out the other day, we saw the guy had the George Washington shirt on.
Yes.
We would have never have seen that anyone wearing that shirt in the city. What exactly did that say? I forget.
It said George Washington did not simply exercise his right to free speech to defeat the British. He shot them with guns.
Right.
Right. And and then it said support the Second Amendment underneath that. Right. To see a shirt like that, you'd never see that in Philadelphia. It would never happen anywhere. I'm one of the only people that I know that's walked the city streets and gone in public places with pro Second Amendment T-shirts, and see reactions on people's faces. Right. But You definitely see a different dynamic there, and there's definitely more pro Second Amendment, pro gun rights people out in those regions, and again, one of the biggest gun shows in southeastern Pennsylvania, in the whole state, I think, takes place in Oaks, which is just down the road from where we'll be. So, it's definitely going to be an interesting dynamic there. I think, my work may gain a little bit of traction with the local people there once they start, understanding it, diving into it a little bit, hopefully. And, we'll see what direction that goes in. But
Absolutely.
Related to that, speak to your take in general, if you would, of where you see consciousness heading. And, do you see an awakening on the horizon? Do you see people moving in that direction? Do you see things moving in a very more negative direction? What time frame do you see that people might still have to get their act together? Where do you see the whole dynamic going?
Yeah, so that's a big question. There's a lot of parts to that, but
Sure.
To boil it down, it's not positive of where we're moving. I think a lot of people can get caught up in the numbers game,
Right.
where they say and they see a lot of people in their local communities who they hang out with, if it's in a little bubble, and they don't really branch out to the rest of the world or have any contact with the rest of the world in person, for sure, and in their information bubbles online. If they can get caught up in that, then they think there is a movement happening, that they think the numbers are growing and that it is going in a positive direction. However, in the grand scheme of things, you really need to look at a ratio of the population who are enlightened, who are recognizing this current state of humanity and the current state of the world we live in. the ratio is certainly not improving, and that is what counts. Those are the numbers are what counts, not the quantity wise. It's the ratio. And as far as time is concerned, a lot of my actions and my promotions are really just to buy time. I mean, yeah, growing your own food is always important. Manufacturing things in your office is important and powerful to do. And having local documentary nights is important. And educating, doing this work, your work, the great work that so many content creators are doing now on the network. Those are all still very worthwhile times, but really only because we haven't had that proper upbringing. So many people around the world haven't learned these things at a proper time at a young age in life, when really in a free society, it would certainly be common knowledge to the youngest of our population for sure. And to get to that level, most of our actions are to buy time, to have everybody come to that level of understanding, share the knowledge, spread the knowledge, educate others. So it's I don't think the ratio is improving. The quantity is growing, but I don't think the ratio overall across the span of humanity in the world is growing in a positive number, and in a positive direction, unfortunately.
What do you think that we can do to improve that dynamic? Because I agree, I don't see the percentages overall shifting. There's still a very tiny percentage of people who really know what's going on. There's an even tinier percentage of people who speak out and attempt to educate others in a moral way. What do you think can be done to, improve that dynamic, if anything?
Yeah, I've been thinking about that a lot lately. It's one of the things that I've recognized, is myself certainly included, and others. Our marketing sucks. We don't have 1 million TikTok followers. Even if we get that 1 million TikTok followers making 99% of the content something stupid, some sort of distraction, and then 1% of the content there's a little nugget of truth in there, and then working and growing on that 1% nugget. But just being more appealing and being better marketers of the information, maybe in a more fun way, being creative with it. I'm not really sure what it's going to take, because I'm not great in that area myself. So I'm pursuing that for sure as an area to improve and to help the dynamic. At the same time, podcasting, video, audio, that's not the only way to get the message out. And a lot of people, yes, I think that's the most powerful way in a video format. However, a piece of artwork or a poem, or just putting together snippets of video of news streams and calling out different contradictions, what have you, teaching history that way, those are all very much needed and very important. The more broad types of ways to speak out and types of content to create, the better, and the more eyeballs and the more minds we're going to be able to reach. Because everybody has a different flavor of music, everybody likes the different type of food, and everybody's going to be appealing to a different type of content in music, in art, in podcasting, etc. So the more people that can do that, the better in various formats. And largely, I think the dynamic is a lot of people don't have the belief in themselves that they can do that they can affect the change, even if they do understand that is how change comes about. They're really either self-conscious, or just don't have the high enough confidence or belief in themselves that they really can have an effect. And I want to tell them that yes, you absolutely can, even if it's a small amount. It is greatly needed in these times.
I want to speak to that dynamic about people's personal power and their worldview and their view of themselves. But before we get to that, let me step back a little bit. An earlier part of your answer there is about marketing and reaching out to people and getting them in. Now, one of the things that I think that we could do is we could attempt to appeal to people with larger audiences than ourselves. So, for example, like if some really big podcasters or really big personalities in a wider aspect of, the communications world were to bring the idea of natural law into their purview and then put it out there for their listening audience, their viewing audience, imagine how much traction this information could gain and garner in the consciousness of humanity. It would really only take a few people to push that message out there and bring the people on who want to discuss it and who are already discussing it in their own work. Why do you think that doesn't happen? It's like it just never occurs. It never breaks into that consciousness. What is holding those people back? Are they straight up gatekeepers and know about that, and they're positioned such that they only want to have the discussion go to a certain place and then stop it from there? I tend to think that it is not a quote gatekeeping thing. I tend to think that it is just their ignorance, and they're so focused in on the small, tiny, narrow box that they talk about that their mindset is just never broadened, and their horizons are just never broadened into a wider aspect of consciousness, such that they are able to recognize, hey, natural law is the solution to this. Objective morality is the solution. We got to get order followers to quit their jobs. We got to teach children from a very young age objective morality so they don't go in government jobs, so they don't go in the police force, so they don't sign up for the military, etc. Speak to what you think the main dynamic is when it comes to why doesn't this break into mainstream consciousness even through the alternative media?
Yeah, I think it was really before shadow banning came in such in a hard fashion. I mean, you yourself have been victim to that on YouTube and what other social medias that were available at the time. But I think a lot of people, like I think you said, is that they're largely still ignorant, and they didn't make it to where they are, whatever platform they're on, whatever following they have. They didn't make it to where they are talking about natural law, objective morality. So they have found their niche, and they think they have made it, and they don't seem to be as not addicted, but as desirous of self-improvement, internal improvement, and they think they've made it somehow, and they think they're done. They're done. They're successful.
Right.
When if they're not talking about natural law and freedom and don't have the understanding, they know that they haven't made it yet. But largely that's not the case. So like if you take Joe Rogan, for example, he's not going to be shadow banned if all of a sudden he starts having discussions about natural law and objective morality and guests on to talk about it. Guys that big, I know he's had Alex Jones on. I'm sure that's actually helped Alex Jones's viewership and his voice when he got on the show. But largely it's because they think they've made it, and they didn't make it by talking about objective morality and natural law. And the spot where they are now is kind of comfortable, and they're very dependent on that following for their income,
Right.
for their status, for their fame, for their lifestyle, basically. And they're very dependent on that, and they're just going to do more of the same of what they did to get there, unfortunately. And instead of, like I said, self-improvement, internal work, and teaching natural law and objective morality and learning it for themselves, really.
It's amazing to me that people in more influential positions with the general public have not fully made that internal awakening in their own awareness that this is what the solution is. And again, people will say, how egotistical are you that you think you know what the solution is? No. There is a solution, and it is knowable, and I know what it is, and I have known what it is. The hardest part of it is not learning what the solution is. The hardest part of it is getting the word out about what the solution is to other people and having them fully understand that that is the correct solution. This is the greatest challenge of the one great work, is to get other people to make the cognitive connection that what you have put forward as the solution is actually factually correct and is the thing that people need to be doing. Because this is our problem in the freedom movement. We're scattered all over the place. And if you ask 1 million people in the movement, if there are even a million, you ask 1 million people, you're going to have a spectrum of different responses of what is the actual solution to what we need to be doing to get out of this tyranny. How many people will tell you the solution is a new monetary system? How many people will tell you it's a new technology? How many people will tell you it's a new crypto? How many people will tell you it's growing your own food? How many people will tell you it's getting off grid? It's like we're scattered as to what we actually really need to be doing. And the one underlying foundation that has to come as a central foundational stone, it's got to be the platform, the bedrock, the slab that you build upon, is natural law. If people aren't talking about natural law and objective morality, they don't really understand the solution to tyranny, because they don't understand the equation that as morality increases, freedom increases, and vice versa. As immorality increases, slavery increases. Again, what do you think we have to do to get people to fully internalize that and understand it from, like grokking it, like fully and completely understanding that that's what the solution is?
Yeah, I think it's really a study of history, like asking them, the main question is, how did we get here? And really asking that over and over and over. And they have an answer, and then how do we get there? Then they have an answer, how did we get there? And you really all come back to, well, everyday people, me, you, our neighbors, our actions in the past have caused where we are today.
That's right.
That is the only way that it ever has happened. That is how we have gotten to where we are now. Everyday people, our individual actions, summated over the quantity of the people on Earth, have resulted in, manifested in our current reality. And people don't really haven't even looked that far into it. They're, like you said, they're stuck on the monetary system, or they just want to cut off the head of the Hydra just for another 3 to grow back. And they don't realize that it is they themselves and their day-to-day, everyday actions is what manifests that change and actually puts what we want to see into the world. And in the past, people have wanted government. People have wanted slavery for themselves and other people, and to control themselves and other people in immoral ways. And that is how we've gotten here, and that is how you get out of here. And that is how our reality works and manifests. So that question is, how did we get here? And just keep hounding that. Similar to a shadow work exercise where you ask yourself 5 whys. Why this? Why that? Why that? Why that? To each answer of the subsequent why. That can do a lot of work, I think, into people's broadening of their perspective and understanding that dynamic of our reality.
Because it forces them to think about information reaching people. Why do people think the way they currently think? They think the way they currently think because that is the information that they've taken in through the course of their life that was given to them by all the people around them, whether it be the media, the school system, their parents, their teachers, their clergy, etc. So, they have to make the fundamental recognition that only by us putting out more information to reach people's eyes and ears and change the way that they think, to influence and long-term eventually change the way that other people think, that is what changes behavior. And only by behavioral change, as you just stated, are we really going to make a dent in the tyranny system of the world. If we're going to get people to stop complying with tyranny, they have to think differently. And for them to think differently, they have to receive the information. If we're not becoming the media, we are allowing the existing media to program those people's minds. And it doesn't mean we want to be mind programmers and then keep them under our thrall. We want to educate them morally and then take the so-called reins off, take the foot off the gas pedal and let them take over and go ahead and think for yourself. They have to learn the method of thinking for themselves, which is the trivium. They have to get the right information and vet it and understand these are the causal factors. And this is what needs to change: thought processes, worldview, etc. So, let's say, where do you see the dynamic heading as far as education is concerned? Do you see technology assisting in that regard? Do you see helping people to learn technology being a boon to getting that information out? And where do you see that dynamic heading in the next several years?
Yeah, technology is certainly important. It is the media of the day. Whatever that latest technology is, that is critical to learn how to put that out, because that's how you're going to reach the most number of people and the most number of minds, as you've just stated. And so I think that dynamic of educating the populace on the technology is certainly important. You're doing that with your course. Others are doing that. And I think any new type of content coming out needs to be a freedom/content, freedom/podcast, a freedom/whatever piece of art, a freedom/whatever poem. If that's not where your foundation is, if that's not the core reason why you're doing what you're doing, then you're not inflicting change. You're not helping us get to that state of freedom. You're not helping that cause.
Right. We're not here to be entertained. You know what I mean? That's what everybody tries to just go right for: entertainment, or even infotainment, edutainment. Right. This isn't about entertainment. This is about freeing ourselves from tyranny and violence and enslavement. We have to take this pretty seriously. Not to say that you can't have any fun along the way, but it's got to be a serious effort. This is not just here to say, oh, that's interesting, and then move on and just take up your place in the slavery system. It's here to say, we really need to learn this, integrate it in our lives, and then change what we're doing, change how we're complying with the existing system of tyranny, and not comply anymore.
Right. Yeah. I always like giving an example of any type of distractions like you just laid out, and that's not solutions oriented, that's not educating on objective morality, natural law, truth, state of freedom. It's like the slaves in the 1800s in the South of America. Learning how to bake a cake, because one day they might have a house and the house might have an oven, but at the end of the day, they're still slaves. Just because they know how to bake a cake or start a garden or whatever doesn't make them free. Right. Is not helping towards the solution. It's really just largely a distraction to get them through the day and not actually see and recognize the state that they are in and how to get out of that state. Without a doubt. It's as ridiculous as that. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, going back to the second part of what we were talking about earlier, you had mentioned that people don't have the self-confidence. They don't believe in themselves. They don't believe that they're powerful and they can affect change in the world if they become active. Nobody's going to affect change in the world if you're not active. If you're not actively doing something, no change gets done. The ability to change something means you had to put work into it. You had to make an effort. You had to try, right? Most people are just saying things and they're not trying. They're not actually doing anything. They're not making content. They're not trying to reach other people's minds. They're just complaining largely, and I find that this comes from lack of confidence, as you said, and the lack of confidence comes from lack of competence. So one of the things that I try to do in my media course is I try to instill confidence in people, but it's not blind confidence. It's not like just confidence for no reason, right? It's confidence that's backed up by competence. So competence comes first, and then there's confidence. And you do need a small modicum of initial confidence, and it's not even really confidence. It's just believing that you will get there, right? You'll get there with proper instruction. You'll get there with practice. You'll get there with time. You'll get there with patience. You'll get there with persistence, right? You have to work at all those things, but that's what will get you to the place of competence. Then you're going to have a lot of confidence. So I'd like to ask you, as someone who graduated from How to Become the True Media, what did you think of those sort of life skill dynamics of the class, right? Put the technicals aside for a second and focus on what I tried to teach people about the mental attitude that they have to have going into something like this, and the life skill aspect of How to Become the True Media.
Right. And as you said, the only way to overcome a fear, is through knowledge.
That's right.
If you're afraid to start a podcast, if you're afraid to create a website, if you're afraid to plant a garden, getting more knowledge about those things, reading a book, or actually having gnosis and doing it little by little, that's the only way to overcome a fear.
It'll totally dispel the fear. Wrangler. That's right.
Yeah. There's no snake wrangler that's afraid of snakes, because they understand the nature of the snakes. Going back to the How to Become the True Media course, in one of your lessons, you actually go through, when you go through file mapping, you identify a piece of glassware in your kitchen cupboard, and you're like, tell me the location of this piece of glassware.
Right.
And you go back to the planet Earth, to the country United States, to the North American continent, to the country United States, to the state, to the city, to the town, to the street, to the actual address, to the location in the house, to the location in that room in the house. And you boil it all the way down.
And that's a file system,
in that
right?
allegory.
That's a file system.
That's the file system. Yeah. So you got to have the foundational knowledge. And once you understand the file system, you know how then to manipulate and act within that file system,
right,
in the ways that you wish. And before, you didn't know how, so you were kind of afraid of it. You didn't know how to go into the root system and to the root user and make changes the way you want. You probably didn't even know that was an option.
Right.
But now you do, going through the gaining of knowledge through that process.
It's always going to be a function of fear based in ignorance versus the absence of fear, or a dynamic in consciousness that is love-based, based in knowledge. It's always how it's going to work. Ignorance festers fear. Knowledge can bring about full understanding and ultimately a love-based consciousness. That's what it's ultimately all about. So I'll let you take the floor and tell me whatever other dynamics you'd like to discuss for the next several minutes, and we'll do that, and then maybe we could take some phone calls from the viewing audience. How does that sound?
Sure. Yeah, I'd like to touch on the concept of self-confidence and self-belief.
Mm-hmm.
And that, one of the ways, the only way to overcome fear, as we've been saying, is through knowledge. But the main way and the quickest way to overcome a lack of confidence is to start doing small things, taking small steps. Everybody in today's day and age is familiar with the concept of compound interest economically, financially. Well, that applies to many other different dynamics, right? Apply the law of correspondence in that sense, with the compounding effect in many other ways of life, many other aspects of life and of yourself. So confidence really does compound on itself. If you learn the file system, then you know how to manipulate files, then you know how to organize files, then you know how to back up files, then you know how to create new files. And then sooner or later, you're creating a website and managing stuff on a server. That's applied through different dynamics in your life, different dynamics in yourself. And that is the way to overcome a lack of confidence, is really by gnosis, by doing. And having that compound little by little by little, and the snowball will just keep growing down the mountain. So that's a very important concept to recognize for those who have that lack of confidence and are seeking ways to overcome that hurdle. Certainly not a permanent state, just a hurdle. The other concept that I wanted to bring up is a concept I had a podcast topic on. That is Enlightenment propagation. And being an engineer, I have studied different types of materials and properties of metals and whatnot. And in a lot of materials, glass is a good example. Take your vehicle's windshield. if you get a chip in the windshield and you don't get it fixed, and over time you get hit with more rocks, the wind pressure over time starts to propagate that crack. And you see this in other materials as well, but this is a good visual for most people in today's day and age. So this crack keeps propagating and propagating and propagating, but it doesn't really propagate if a stone hits the windshield on the complete other side, or if it hits a different window in the car. It really only starts to propagate when force is directly applied to that spot in the windshield. And the concept of crack propagation, I twisted the first word and input the word enlightenment. So enlightenment propagation is a concept where I explained every one of our neighbors, every one of our friends, every one of our family members who aren't enlightened, who aren't doing the great work, who don't know about natural law or objective morality, or even what freedom actually truly is and anarchy truly is. They, each and every one of them, has their own crack in their system, a chink in their armor, if you will. And whether that's in the healthcare industry, whether that's in the food system, whether that's in the news stations, whether that's history, whether pick your poison there. And our job as great workers is to find those cracks, those chinks in the armor of our friends, of the people we care about, the ones who we can really directly affect and influence. And once we do find that crack, keep picking at it, keep pushing away at it, keep throwing stones at that crack, sending them information, different articles to read, bring it up in conversation frequently, and eventually that crack will start to propagate. Their enlightenment will start to propagate out, and eventually the windshield will shatter. That's why I like the name of one of last year's conferences, Shattering the Illusion, right? So shatter that windshield in our day-to-day actions with these people, interacting these people, educating these people, our friends and family, the people we love, to really propagate out that crack that they have of whatever aspect it is of the current system that they have a little bit of knowledge about, and see the chink in the armor. So those are the two concepts that I would like to have people think about after the podcast and enact in their daily lives.
Absolutely great point there, Jeff. And, there are so many endpoints. I mean, you could literally pull on just about any thread and unravel the tapestry of the control system in people's minds if you work at it enough. And, this is what we simply have to inspire people to do, is get active, talk to people, formalize your work and put it out online so that other people can benefit from it. The name of your very documentary night, Inquire and Inspire. Ask questions and then try to inspire others. Reach people's minds, help to influence and change them for the better. That's what we are here to do for ourselves and each other. So, Jeff, I think that's a great place to leave the formal part of the discussion, and I'd like you to give all of the online resources where people can find any and all of your work, and then let's go to the phones after that. What do you think?
Sounds great.
Great.
Yeah, my main website is gooff.com, GOAUF.com. Everybody can find my page on the One Great Work Network, Jeff Hipoff. So it's One Great Work Network /Jeff-Hipoff. Inquireandinspire.com for my monthly documentary movie nights in Oaks, PA at Arnold's Family Fun Center. Farmfinderpa.com is my community-sourced directory of local farms and food sources in the state of Pennsylvania. And I also have a line that is quickly growing of soaps and toothpaste and balms. That is going to be at happyhomeandbody.com as a supplemental income stream for me, hopefully to one day get out of the day job system that I am currently in. So it's always a progress, and everybody's at different starting points, and that's where I currently am. And I'm working towards getting out and exercising my entire source of income through the counter economy and parallel systems outside of government.
Excellent. Awesome. Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Hipoff, check him out at gooff.com, GOAUF.com, and on the One Great Work Network content creator page. Let's go to the callers and see what they have to bring up. Let's hear from Conrad. Conrad, you are live on What on Earth is Happening with my special guest, Jeff Hipoff. Welcome.
Hey, Mark. Hey, Jeff. I've really enjoyed getting to hear from you and just this series with the different content creators in general. The reason I called is because I wanted to talk about the dynamic of confidence too. Myself, I'm also not somebody who ever wanted to be in front of the camera, in front of the microphone. But what inspires it in me is just reminding myself that these people we're up against, they have all the confidence and it's completely unfounded. All these people that are so sure of themselves, these narcissists, they shouldn't have that. They should be, they should be cowering in the corner. And us who represent the truth, we're the ones who need to speak up and get up there.
That's
So
right.
that's really just a decision we have to make, even if it's counterintuitive or unpleasant at first.
I fully agree. The dynamic is reversed. It's a form of inversion. The people who should not be confident because they're not standing in the truth and they're doing immoral behaviors shouldn't have that type of confidence, but they do because they're currently, in control of the largest platforms and technology, and they also have tons of financial resources that they can use to influence people to do whatever they ask them to do, and that creates that sense of artificial, not truly deserved confidence, but nonetheless, it puts it there in their mindset. And people tend to think, who are on the side of the truth, oh, it's just little me, little us. What do we have? What resources and power do we have? Well, guess what? You have the biggest power at your disposal. Because if you're standing in the truth, there's no bigger sense of power and bigger sense of protection than that. That's number one. Number two is with a little bit of knowledge, you're going to gain your skill sets. You're going to have skill sets under your belt. You're going to have competence in what you're doing, and then you're going to slowly build your outreach, and that will make your confidence snowball from there. Jeff, your take on that?
Yeah, I mean, everybody who can ride a bike, the first time you rode a bike, you probably fell once or twice. And like Conrad mentioned, it's going to be painful in the beginning. You're going to get things wrong. You're going to make mistakes. You're going to mess up. But the things that you do get right will have that compounding, snowballing effect. And over time, you'll get less things wrong. And you become way more competent in your work and whatever that is that you're trying to learn.
Without a doubt. Conrad, you're a content creator as well, and we're going to be bringing you onto One Great Work Network. And, speak to the dynamic as, like, what do you see as far as people's ability to learn how to put their voice out there online and, utilizing the technology that we have at our disposal that we have to actually, employ while we have it at our disposal. What kind of ways do you think that we can, leverage that and get people inspired to come on board and actually, formalize more material and then put it out there online so that other people can learn from it? Did we lose Conrad? Well, Jeff, I'll ask you that.
Yeah, go
ahead.
Here.
There you go. Go ahead.
Hear me?
Yes. Because you're actively involved right now in creating content. Am I correct?
Definitely. And with these tools, it's like I do construction too for my day job. So just like with power tools, you're afraid to touch it at first, but
Right.
you're afraid to try new things. But with technology, it's the same idea. Just get over the fear of not knowing how to use that. Most people don't even use a mouse. They're on the phone, they're on the laptop.
That's right.
So you have to try your hand at all this different stuff, try different things of doing it. I took the How to Become the True Media, and that opened up a lot for me.
Excellent.
So you just have to really get out of your comfort zone.
Without a doubt, people have to be stop being afraid to try and to experiment. Jeff, when you first started, obviously, you're not going to be an expert at anything. You're going to have to go through those learning pains, right? And you're going to have to fail, right? People are so afraid to fail that they don't try. Speak to the dynamic of, how do you see failure? Do you see failure as a teacher? And how do people overcome their fear of failing that is holding them back from even trying? Like what techniques or practices do you think they can employ to try to get over that, that hump?
Yeah, I think just from my own personal anecdotes about failing, early days of starting my website, I think there was some sort of plugin update or a WordPress update, and it broke the theme that I was using. I forget exactly what happened, but I pretty much couldn't figure out how to get my website back that I had created and was almost done with. So I started from scratch once again. So that was not a good feeling. And that was a lot of time poured into that first iteration. And since then, I've had podcasts recorded and then not saved properly, or the file gets corrupted in some way. And you lose that entire recording. You have to start over again. And it freaking sucks and it's not fun. But it is just part of the learning curve. That's a lot of times how you learn,
right?
When things do go wrong. So to help people get started and start to overcome that a little bit, it's really simplifying your next step. Just taking a very small next step. Really think about what you want to do and simplify that as much as you can, and just do that one little thing. Then you don't have to worry about that anymore. It's just one less thing off your plate, and then you focus on the next and the next and the next, and eventually it adds up, and you're doing the thing that you set out initially to do based on the completion of all your little baby steps. So
right,
that's an important thing to do, is to really focus on what's the next thing and try and simplify that just so it's not complicated. And you can do it. And
as you were saying, it's like a compounding effect. You learn a little bit, and then you build on top of those existing skill sets. It's just like What on Earth is Happening podcast, right? You listen to podcast number 1, and you get that knowledge under your belt. You might look at other resources and vet that information, read some books. Then you go to podcast number 2, and then 3. And then before you know it, you're going to have a tremendous wealth of knowledge at your fingertips, and you're going to have a worldview that has expanded considerably, and you're even going to get confidence to turn other people onto this and even teach it to others. So it's like you have to simply begin. Once you begin, those skill sets will compound and they will snowball. And
yeah, I think in your podcast, I remember some callers, I forget which episodes, but it was during the Cosmic Abandonment series, and they had asked some questions about your topics and your content in that series. And I think you posed the question to them, have you listened to all the prior content? And they were like, no, this is my first call. This is my first episode.
Right.
And it's like, why are you starting at Cosmic Abandonment? You didn't start the podcast.
You're starting at the end instead of the beginning. Right.
Right. And so you structured it in just that same manner to build the foundational knowledge and work up from there.
Right.
And you don't just jump into driving a car one day. You learn about the road, you learn about the different signals, you learn about the different controls, you learn about the computer if you're trying to create a podcast, you learn about the file system. So you don't just jump into recording. And I think only in the last couple of weeks of your How to Become the True Media course do we really get into the final outputting content and everything building up to that.
Audio and video comes toward the end of the seminar, not the very end, but toward the end, like maybe over 2/3 to 3/4 through, because there's so much prerequisite knowledge to have to understand, and to go back to even that dynamic of failure and how people are afraid to fail. It's like, how many times do I even still stumble? And it's not always user error. Sometimes it's developer error, right? Sometimes it is user error. Okay. In moving things, I inadvertently plugged a network cable into the wrong port. When a jumble of network cables and a bunch of switches and a router, and I misplaced one cable, and a server was offline for a day until I found it. So I had to go trace cables and unplug it, plug it into the right port. Problem solved. Problems happen. Mistakes. No one is perfect. Mistakes will be made. You will fail at doing things. I finally figured out the thing that was probably causing the problems with the start of the show over the past several weeks, due to the developer of the app that I use for streaming changing the setting that I did not change, right? So, and of all things, it's a hardware encoder setting. So imagine that, right? We're not talking about like an interface tweak, right? The developer in the new version that I upgraded to, and this is nested way down in sub menus, like you got to uncollapse things, open up modal windows and stuff like that. And then in that setting, that nested setting, they changed a hardware encoder setting and changed the default. And I thought it was still set to the way I had set it. So today, I'm looking through all of this. I set it today to the way I wanted it. The show's perfect. It went off without a hitch today, with no hiccups or interruptions. And again, this is why software is so important. This is why development is so important. I have to do a whole other show on development, software development, the mindset of developers. And maybe I'll try to find a developer, to talk with and do a show on, because if we don't understand how interconnected software development is to freedom, it's the main technology. Software is what every single solitary podcast that I've ever put out was put out through software. Software made that happen, okay? And if we don't have and maintain and work with developers and build a relationship with them to build and maintain better software, the job of a content creator in this whole field of endeavor becomes harder and harder. And as you can see, you don't give up. You keep looking for ways to improve it. Even if it fails, you keep going. You don't stop. You just keep going and keep doing it. That's part of the life lesson of everything that's taught here in What on Earth is Happening, but specifically what I try to teach and how to become the true media. Let's hear from another content creator of One Great Work Network, Fred Gingras. Fred, you are live on What on Earth is Happening with our special guest, Jeff Hipoff. Welcome.
Hey, thank you, Mark, for being the call. And I was inspired by your conversation, Jeff. This is where I'm going now. I'm into building a conference with 3 other people, and it's gonna happen on 25th of March, and it's gonna be exclusively French.
Nice.
So things are, yes, we're starting to get things happen. It has been a rough ride, but to find people that they have the heart at the good place, and when you have them, you keep them like close to you. I enjoy the great work because it's very empowering, and all these things that you were talking about, Jeff, are really true heart-based feelings that most people wish they have, and it's not easy. It's not a easy path to take, and I made mistakes in my podcast, and I still doing some little mistakes, but you're getting better and you're getting more comfortable talking with the people, and it's very, very enlightening and empowering to share this knowledge with people. And I see how important the great work is by the way we're doing things. It's not only learning things by heart, but it's doing things. And I mean, you're doing it. I'm doing a podcast, so it's not like having a whole network, but essentially it's building one. I have the motto of, if you a good leader is a leader who creates more leader. So this is the mindset I have about it. I want the people to really put their will into it, for the search on truth and the occult. And I'm getting, it's getting better on the French side. If we touch 1% of the people, I would be happy with it.
Awesome. Fred, thank you for that. Jeff, your take on everything Fred just said, especially when it comes to organization, to bring people together. I know this is something that you're personally involved with, and you've helped make the Two Masks, Same Face presentation happen. So your response to everything Fred brought up there.
Yeah, you got to keep powering through. And the European population, just getting the temperature gauge from listening to your show, Mark, over the years, has not been great. And the society over there manifests and shows just as much. So what Fred's doing, targeting a French audience, is awesome, is awesome to see. And it's really just about hard grit, hard work, determination, knowing what needs to be done and fighting through that. And it seems like Fred has gone through a lot of that, and you've are now putting together a full-on conference, and that's going to be awesome, I'm sure, and much needed, and showing, as a leader yourself, showing the way for others to do the same in their parts of the world.
Excellent. Fred, could you please tell people the name of the conference, and if you have a URL, share that with our audience, please? I think you're muted, Fred. You can unmute yourself.
So
there you go. You're breaking up. Try again. It looks like, unfortunately, he's having audio difficulties. No worries, Fred. When you have that, just let us know, and we'll definitely promote that. All right, let's hear from... Who do we have waiting here? Let's hear from Sarah. Sarah, you're live on What on Earth is Happening with my special guest, Jeff Hipoff. Welcome. Sarah, you're muted. Go ahead and unmute yourself, please. All right, I'll move on. Let's hear from Jennifer. Jennifer, you're live on What on Earth is Happening with my special guest, Jeff Hipoff. Welcome. So, folks, when I call on you, be ready to unmute. You have to roll over the call window with your mouse or pointing device and hit the microphone to unmute yourself in the call window. There you go.
I have a question regarding, do you think this will end in a physical combat?
Your question is, do you think that this is leading to war?
Yes, war. Like hands-on physical combat, assassination.
Jeff,
elimination.
Your take on that, is the situation that we are in heading to a physical warfare scenario or physical combat scenario?
My question back is, who's fighting on the sides, at each side? Are you going to fight a couple hundred or a couple thousand scattered across the world, even lacking in fundamental values, against millions and trillions? I don't see that actually as a war at all. You need more people to start a war.
How many sorcerers, how many people do they have power over? So if you only have a couple hundred people, you really are not that slow, are you?
She broke up a little bit. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it was difficult to hear, but it's basically saying if you only have a few hundred people, I guess she was saying, is it more advantageous or less, is what I made from it, but it broke up so much it was very difficult to understand the question. I think there's just bandwidth issues going on there. But, my take on it is it has inexorably heading towards some type of a combat scenario or warfare scenario. That's what always happens when communication, morality, teaching breaks down, it does not mean that that will be a successful scenario. Was the American Revolution long-term successful? The American Revolution wasn't long-term successful for a number of reasons. They let off the gas pedal too early, as far as I'm concerned, and left 80% Tories in the country to fester and breed and plot and plan, and unfortunately didn't press the war as I think that they should have. Secondly, they didn't morally educate the remaining population enough. Look at the morals of the population of America now. While it's probably still one of the highest consciousness, if not the highest consciousness country on earth, which is sad, you still have a largely immoral population. I'd say at least 2/3 to 75% immoral, if not much higher. And for people who completely understand objective morality, it's far, far less. You have a general moral population of maybe about 20%, if that. But for people who understand natural law completely, forget about it. It's less than 1%. So we didn't do our job morally educating the populace after the American Revolution, as far as I'm concerned. Jeff, your take on that, and how you see things playing out, possibly going in the direction of kinetic warfare, possibly between just, let's say, sides that represent people who want to be free versus people who want to continue the enslavement system.
Yeah, well, I know for sure that we can be the ones initiating the violence, right? It's going to be a last grasp, hope, and a last control of the world and the people who wish to. And that's the only way that would happen. Aren't even close to each other on the side of that possible kinetic conflict, and not much of a conflict. And that's what it work now isn't kinetic conflict.
Jeff, your audio is now breaking up as well. Maybe we can just try to reestablish it. Can you hang up on the call and come back in? Because there you go. And just come on back in. I'll switch over.
I'm back, Mark.
All right. You're much better sound-wise. Let's get your video going, and I'll bring you back.
You want to break everything's,
All right, hold on one moment. I'm going to leave and come back into the call-in room. I apologize for that, folks. Again, problems occur with bandwidth and connections, and you just have to be persistent and stick with it. Let's see if we have Jeff back now. Hold on a moment. All right, Jeff, can you hear me now?
Yeah, that's much clearer.
Much better. Okay, so looks like that bandwidth issue was on my laptop. There we go. You're back. Continue with what you were saying before the sound broke up.
Yeah, I was saying it started in terms of a kinetic conflict in the future. The numbers would need to be much closer. It's not going to be much of a conflict.
Exactly.
And I know for damn sure we're not going to be the ones initiating that conflict. It would either be in self-defense or started from a last grasp, last-ditch effort for those who wish to control others on this planet.
Right.
And that's why our main efforts now isn't kinetic conflict, isn't going out and sabotaging the system in a physical way. It is trying to peacefully, morally educate the minds and help others around the world do the same, and just really stop doing the actions that result in the place that we currently are, and continue to do the actions that will only result in a state of freedom. Right
now, this is the battleground. Make no mistake about it. The battleground is in the mind of humanity, and that's where we have to wage it right now. That being said...
To that point, that's why I'm wearing this shirt.
There you go.
Take it with
that's right.
With the mind on it. So that's where it is.
That being said, we are already under duress. We are already under violence. We are already actually under physical attack. You know, if you look at the poisoning of the food and water supply, that's a physical attack. You know, if you look at the taxation system, people would say that's not a physical attack, but it is, because they will come and take you if you refuse to pay them. You know, if you don't pay property taxes, they'll come and take your property. You know, things like that already constitutes physical assault and duress against the body and the fruits of the labor of an individual, and that's violence. So, you know, of course, peaceful people who are just simply do not want rulers would not initiate any kind of physical conflict, because that would constitute violence. The problem is we're already under an initiation of physical attack and violence, even if people can't see it at their level of consciousness. Violence is already, the threat of violence is always implied. So if the threat of violence is always either verbally or even non-verbally implied, where you know if you don't comply with someone else's demands, they're going to do physical violence unto you, that is the state known as duress. I did an entire presentation on it called Duress, Dissidence, and Deadly Force years ago at the Truth Mind Reality Conference in Arizona. And this is the dynamic I was trying to get across to people. So thank you for that call, Jennifer. Let's hear from Lisa. Lisa, you are live on What on Earth is Happening with my special guest, Jeff Hipoff. Go right ahead.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes, I can. Yes, we can.
Amazing. Thanks for another great show. I totally agree. I definitely feel like we're in the war already. There isn't necessarily something like worse coming later. Like, this is pretty bad.
Yeah, we're in it.
I've been because I'm relatively new at this, but I've been working on it sort of a strategy. Well, it's your strategy actually, the Maven targeting from you were talking about a while ago. It's one thing I can't say I've had like huge success, but I do feel like it's moving in the right direction. I've just I started a Substack, and it was kind of just because I was writing an article that was related to free speech, and it was around like one of the political prisoners that we have in Canada here, and that like the person in that community, like they really appreciated it. It's just there's so much censorship, like a lot of people just didn't even know about the situation. And anyway, so just being in contact with those people, and they have a big audience, so it's like and now they're
so that was the form of what you said, that you followed the strategy I laid out called Maven targeting. They had a lot of influence in their community, is what you were saying?
Well, like this wasn't like it wasn't planned out, but that's just kind of how it ended up being. Like, because I was inspired to write an article about what was going on with this particular person, and because I did that, they're kind of more interested in listening to other things that I have to say. You know, it's like networking in a weird way, where there's like just different little groups, and we can sort of see where we can help each other out.
We're rapidly running out of time. I'm going to let Jeff respond to that basic strategy that you're talking about. Jeff, your take on that? We have about 1 minute left.
Sure, yeah. We had touched on that earlier, talking about targeting the large social media following content creators. Mm-hmm. That would be an example of Maven targeting as well, if they're an expert in their field, in their community. And as Mark has said in past podcasts on that topic and on that dynamic, focusing efficiently on how to affect the most amount of positive change. And a lot of that is looking at the leaders of the community, which are the Mavens. And it can be a positive strategy, and it has worked in instances around the world, not just related to natural law and freedom, but to other dynamics. And people tend to follow the confidence and the competence of those people, of those Mavens. So it's a very powerful strategy if we can employ it properly.
Jeff, your final thoughts?
No, I just want to say it's a real pleasure and real honor to be on the show, Mark. I've listened to all of the episodes over the years and listening live now for a few episodes, and it's a real pleasure. And I said it the other night at a restaurant. You've helped raise me and so many others around the world, and that's what the great work is, and inspiring others to do the same thing. And I hope everybody is shooting for that, and the goal is to be in a state of freedom with zero slavery. That's
right.
What it's all about.
Ladies and gentlemen, Jeff Hipoff, check him out. Gooff.com, GOAUF.com, and on the One Great Work Network. That's all the time we have for this edition of What on Earth is Happening, everyone. We'll see you right here next week. And remember, government is slavery.